Hey everyone, so I am so excited for another segment of Mogul Talk, and congratulations Brian for being the first gentleman to enter the doors of Black Women Mogul. So you are definitely a trailblazer, and I hope that many more are to follow. I am excited to have you here today. For those who do not know, he is the founder of Black Speakers Network, which we are a proud partner of. Anything that they do, you can expect greatness. So welcome so much to today's segment.
Trailblazing. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for opening the door. And this is such an amazing space. So I appreciate it. And yes, welcome. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you so much. So I know I read your bio, but I've also, of course, known you over the past year that you are a burgeoning change agent. You started the Black Speakers Network, and I didn't even know that you were an HBCU alum. So for those who do not know about you, let us know, what can you share with the audience about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did create Black Speakers Network in 2016. Our stated mission is to equip, connect, and inspire the next generation of Black professional speakers. So Avery, that all sounds good. But in 2016, what you may have not noticed is that, 10 years before, that's when my speaking journey started. And today I'm what I call a self-proclaimed certified introvert. I couldn't lead two people in silent prayer, let alone stand in front of an audience and deliver a presentation. So this whole thing of leading a speaker development training community, I did not see that in my cards. I was actually in school to be an engineer at Morgan State University, which I think is credited for producing some of the best and most Black engineers of any other HBCU in the country. So they have an incredible engineering school. It was so good that I had to drop out and go to business school because it was too hard. But that was the beginning of my speaking journey. I'm from Baltimore, so grew up with Morgan State University in the shadow right down the road from me. And it was an incredible experience. But I stumbled upon an organization while I was there called Toastmasters, which is, for anybody listening, Avery is not familiar, Toastmasters is one of those organizations that if you have a passion for speaking and you really just want to build up your confidence, get some skills, like Toastmasters is the place to go. It's a non-threatening environment where you could go in, practice presentation skills, and you actually get feedback along the way. And so in 2006, that was my entry point into the speaking space, was at Toastmasters. And so through my sweaty palms, my shaking voice, like all the stuff going on in my first presentation, I made it through that experience. And that was kind of like the catalyst to actually moving forward, was at a HBCU at Morgan State University, and just seeing week after week, because we met on a weekly basis, the talent of people who stood up, delivered presentations, people with very powerful messages, not even realizing that, speaking was an option. That later on was a catalyst for me to, actually start Black Speakers Network.
I think the common theme amongst like speakers that I come across is that we all kind of fall into it somehow. We don't really necessarily pick it. So I think it's just really funny how, I don't know, it just seems like a common thread. Have you found that yourself?
Yeah, we call it selected. You could be selected, elected, or kidnapped into this industry. But it's kind of like that. I think, oftentimes, with everything else, if you're going to be a computer scientist or, lawyer, like that's a very distinct path. It's like you pass the bar, you take an exam, you go to the school, you graduate. But with speaking, there's so many different ways to enter into this space. And by the way, they're not wrong. I was actually a full-time trainer. Like because when I did make it from Morgan, ended in corporate America. I'm a millennial on the older side, but I have a little bit of non-traditional millennial experience. I spent 11 years working for one company in different roles, but one company, 11 years. So it was like, I knew I wanted to get into speaking. I was like, how am I going to do this? And so there was a department called professional development, where professional development, they do trainings. And so my thought process of speaking is like, wow, if I could become a trainer, like that's the ultimate, path to speaking. And so I would stalk them. They sat on the second floor. Like I would go hang out, see what they're doing, try to figure out like, how do I get into speaking from a corporate perspective? And so I was introduced to the world of training. And then there's another entire world behind that called instructional design. So yeah, there are a lot of different paths that people can take to get into it, and that's really the part that I love the most, Avery, is because you can kind of carve for folks that want to actually turn this into a speaking business. There's a lot of different ways that this can look.
Yeah. And the thing I love about Black Speakers Network is that you provide so many tools and resources. I remember when I was first trying to find more speaking opportunities, and the SEO must be really good because it was one of the first things I came across. And since then, so much value that you have provided. So why did you decide to create this platform? What was the transition from just speaking for yourself, but wanting to help others to break into the industry or just enhance their platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So, anytime I'm trying to learn something, like I personally seek out community. Like that's my go-to. Like you can read books, you can, do stuff, but I like to find other people who are like further along than me, people that are kind of at my level, and even people that can help, kind of cultivate. And that's, I think, was kind of sparked in Toastmasters. But certainly as I was going around trying to find organizations to work with, there I ran into, of course you have Dale Carnegie, you got John Maxwell program. Like people have their own individual programs. There are organizations like National Speakers Association. They really didn't have a presence in the Baltimore area. And so I thought the entry point was kind of high. They were really looking for people who are already professional speakers at the time. And so I was like, hey, since I can't find one, like any great entrepreneur, you're going to create one. You want to be your own first customer. And I think that's kind of where every mogul starts, is like solving a specific problem of something that you're personally struggling with is a great way to start an empire. And so that was my thing. I was like, hey, I'm going to start this. And so I was working full time still. And so my Friday evenings, Saturdays and Sundays were kind of like my core business hours. And so I began the process of, shaping out this community. But really what I wanted to do was also impact the representation within the speaking industry. I do think that oftentimes we can kind of look at, several of the big names that we're used to seeing all the time. And but then there's this gap. And so my question was, especially seeing the talent at a HBCU like Morgan, I was like, where's the next generation? And so that's where the mission statement of next generation of Black professional speaker came from. Like I really wanted to make sure that as this industry continued to mature, and by the way, the speaking industry is not new. I mean, even going back to like the 40s and 50s, like, you hear about speaker circuits and, people holding like conferences, seminars, or workshops. Like we've been speaking for a very long time, but the industry itself is like everything is undergoing this digital transformation. And now our ability to be able to, craft a message and reach our audience has really accelerated. And the definition of what a speaker is and how we can do that continues to evolve. And so I think it's a lot more accessible and obtainable as a path. But oftentimes, as it is with a lot of things within the Black community specifically, we're underrepresented, and there's like a vacuum of information, and also a vacuum of resources and tools to be able to, reach over to somebody who's looking to figure that out. And so I really wanted to fill that vacuum.
And you really do. Trust me, everyone. You need to follow Black Speakers Network, and you really just need to join. Just take my word for it. I don't give my word out on a lot of organizations, but this is one of those. I also wanted to say congratulations on the success. I mean, I know it took some grit, but over 10,000 of a community of 10K speakers. That's really amazing. What advice do you have for those who are looking to break into the speaker business?
Yeah, so that was really, that's been the question that we've been answering now going into our fifth year is, what are the main things that speakers struggle with? Because to our point, the great news is, like we said, this business can look any way you want. The bad news is it can look any way you want. And so having a solid foundation to be able to start from is very important. And so for us, we created a framework called the 5 M's. We actually put out a book last year focused on this. It's called Speak Up, the ultimate guide to dominate the speaking industry. Because, when I first started BSN, I just had hundreds of conversations with speakers, new speakers, established speakers. And really, my question is, where do people get stuck? Where do they have challenges when it comes to, okay, I know I want to speak. I know I can potentially get paid to speak. I know I have a message that could help people, but like, what do I do next? And so we created this model to address that. And so the 5 M's that we have outlined are, getting clarity on number one, your mission. So that's, essentially who is your target market? What problem are you solving? Do you have a process that you are establishing to walk your people through how to actually solve that problem? And then, what is the promise that you are delivering? What's the transformation that you're trying to provide? And so that's their mission. Next, once you have your mission established, then the other four kind of fall into place more easily because it goes from mission to outlining your message. So that's like creating your signature talk, your programs, marketing. So that's things like your external branding, resources, website, your bio, headshots, things of that nature. So you got your marketing, how to monetize, and then how to manage your speaking business. And so those are the 5 M's. So it's mission, message, marketing, how to monetize and manage your speaking business. And so when people come into Black Speakers Network, they're already somewhere on that spectrum somewhere. Like some people may already have like signature message that they're really confident about, but maybe they haven't spent a lot of time like getting clarity on exactly who their target audience is. They're just speaking. Like if somebody asks them to speak, they just go do it and show up. Some people have been speaking for years but have never monetized their message. They are used to getting paid speaking, free speaking engagements, but never paid engagements. They don't have, products or services or books, courses, any way to really continue to help serve that audience. And so we really need to look at all five if we're talking about building a speaking business. And so I think that's the place that we would start. And we actually give folks a free copy of that Speak Up book when they come into our community because we just want to be a resource so people can have a starting point. But I think the biggest thing that every speaker could just focus on is getting clarity on that first one, because people like to leapfrog over that and go straight to, how do I get paid? Which is understandable, but we really want to start at the foundation.
And I love how you just laid the 5 M's out, because a lot of people, and it basically is just another business. People don't approach it as a business. They think it's, I can just, apply and then get the money. But it is, you do have to be very strategic to position yourself accordingly. So I love how you just laid out the 5 M's. He just gave you game if you did not realize that already. Now, transitioning just a little bit for a fun question, is there a memorable speech that stood out to you and why?
Oh yeah, there's all types of presentations, but to me, I think even in Toastmasters, like I've had the opportunity to so in Toastmasters, they have this thing called the World Championship of Public Speaking. And so every year, 30,000 people from around the world compete for this opportunity to, it's a 5 to 7 minute presentation where you are judged by other Toastmasters. And then you start at the club level and then you move on through these levels. So it's like area, division, district, the top 10 speakers ultimately, face off. They go to a different country every year. And so you face off. And these are some of the best presentations. They're short because they're 5 to 7 minutes. Like if you go overtime, you're disqualified. If you go under a certain amount of time, you're disqualified. So these are very powerful speeches. And you're competing against some of the best platform speakers in the world. And not all of these people are professional speakers, but to me, it's a really cool experience. And so I had an opportunity to do that. I believe it was 2013 or 2014, but I made it to the semifinals with the speech that I created called Twisted Statistics. And the reason the speech was so powerful is because, one, I didn't think I was going to win. I mean, it was like this was my first year competing in the international speech contest, but I won at the club, and then I won at the area, and then I won at the division, and then I had a district. My mom was actually in the audience, but it was a speech focused on how there are all these statistics about being a Black male, and 1/3 of us end up arrested at some point in our lifetime. Coming from Baltimore, I'm 36. A lot of folks don't even make it to see 35 years old, and so there's these powerful statistics that I feel like I've been battling against just by my own existence. And I talked about the people in my life who have, impacted that. So my mom was one of them. My tennis coach in high school was another, and my grandfather was another. And so I talked about how we twisted these statistics. And so when I won that district contest, which gave me a chance to compete at Las Vegas at the semifinals, that was one of the most powerful presentations. One, because it represented kind of like a culmination of going from that certified introvert guy that couldn't lead two people in silent prayer to now being an award-winning speaker. But it also was just so cool to have my mom and so many people, in the audience to witness that.
That is amazing. And that's what I'm all about, breaking the stigma, the stereotypes, the statistics. And as you said, you are a testament to that. So if you had to tell emerging entrepreneur, emerging Brian, some advice, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, any emerging, if I had to go back in time, I would say, just recognize your value early on. I think one of the things that I look back on kind of funny with Black Speakers Network is that even though I started the organization in 2016, we really didn't monetize it until almost 2018. We didn't create the membership model that we have now until December of 2017. And so I took my financial advisor, we have meetings, and he was like, you're building this community. I think we're at 2,000 or 3,000 people at that point. He's like, you ever plan to monetize this thing? And I was like, well, we had been selling little products and, stuff like that. But he was like, you probably have people right now who are ready to pay you, but you just don't have a mechanism in place to do it. You have this community of people that are wanting more. And so I was like, okay. And so that's where the membership was born, and then we were able to spin off other products and services, an amazing platform partner program, which you're an amazing part of, Avery. And so, but I think getting to profitability quicker would be not doubting what you have, but just really focus on, hey, what problem are we solving, and what product and service can we bring to market that can address that more quickly. And so I know for a fact that I left my full-time job in April of 2019. And beautiful moment. It was 5:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know the temperature. I know how the wind was blowing. I worked hard to be able to do that moment. But it probably could have came a lot sooner if if I had really focused on just believing in myself, believing in our product and service, and really just listening to the needs of the people that we serve. And I think that's a tip that a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly, if you're still working full time and you're thinking wow, is this something that, I could really do? You absolutely can. But, sometimes we are hesitant to charge, what we're worth, or in some cases, in my case, charge anything, because it's kind of will people pay for that? And they will if you position it in the right way.
That's true, because I'm a big believer that our customers, they evolve, and then we also have to evolve with them. And I understand with that pricing, I've, over the year, nobody probably realized I have increased just a little bit, be increasing again. And I think we all struggle with that at points of what to charge. But then I think we learn, not that we're taking advantage of, but we realize, okay, this is not working for me. I need to, of course, make sure that I'm taken care of, even though you still want to provide value and sometimes even over deliver. But at the end of the day, this is a business. So Thank you for sharing that. And I plan to be right behind you. My retirement date is set from the government. I cannot wait. So I can't wait to feel that breeze as well.
It's real. It's real. It's a day you'll never forget. Because you work hard for it. But I feel like, retirement, resigning, transitioning, is not an event. It's a process, and you've been
Right.
engaged in that process.
Yeah. I say entrepreneurship is not a destination, but a journey.
100%, 100%. So yeah, I mean, it's coming, but I believe in this kind of 10x multiplier, which is that oftentimes we kind of look at whatever salary we were making at work, and we're like, oh well, I kind of just need to replace that, and so I don't believe that. I'm a big advocate of I built BSN on kind of three pillars, so it's partnerships, community, and systems are the three. Systems being one of the most important, particularly as it relates to being able to achieve this level of freedom financially, because a lot of times we think we need just to replace our income, but really we need to replace the systems that generate our income in order to be able to move forward. And then from a 10x perspective, it's kind of like, okay, if you make $100,000 a year in your job, I believe that whatever you're doing for your job, you are worth at least 10 times as much on the open market to be able to do it for yourself. When you unlock the full power of your creativity, your resources, you're able to control the pricing, as you mentioned, Avery. Like, you don't have to ask anybody for a raise. You don't have to wait for a performance review. Like, if you want more money, you can go out and serve more people, or raise the price per person that you're charging and increase the value subsequently. So I love that conversation.
Me too. That sounds like another segment that we need to have.
Anytime.
Now, to date, I know there's so many, but what is the biggest accomplishment to you that Black Speakers Network has accomplished so far?
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, kind of when you look at everything that we have, as you mentioned, we do have 11,000, plus members. We do have, we've done a lot this year in terms of, we had a global speaker summit in the middle of a pandemic, which went through like multiple phases and stuff like that. But to me, it's really not, like, I don't get tripped up by like vanity metrics, in terms of, Facebook followers and Instagram likes and stuff like that. To me, core to our mission, it's really being able to, anytime we can provide people with like their first. So and for BSN, there are a lot of firsts. People have BSN attached to their brand story as a lot of firsts. My first speaking engagement, I found I was able to launch my first book, my first online course, my first podcast interview, in some cases. And so, those are the things that I'm really, really proud of, because again, when I started BSN, I was just looking for I was looking for a community where I could learn, but I was also looking for opportunities and places where I could, add value, where the barrier of entry wasn't so high that I didn't even have a shot. And I think when people join BSN, you get an instant speaking opportunity. We do a speaker spotlight. We're adding you to our directory. You're getting access to not only 11,000 speakers, but many of the speakers, such as yourself, Avery, have their own platforms. We have podcasts, digital programs, Facebook Live. People now are developing their own programs on like Roku and Apple TV. And so to me, there are way too many to name, but just like hundreds of people who can kind of link back to BSN and say, yo, this is where I got my first shot. This is where I was able to make my mark. I built relationships. I've been able to, sell my first course. We had multiple people this year go through Kat Dunn's program, and they have created their first signature 4-figure digital course. Like, things to me, that to me is things where I'm like, yes, it's one thing, and that's the reason why we're not really set up like a traditional speakers bureau. A traditional speakers bureau will take already well established speakers and then connect them to corporations or audiences that need them. They will book that speaking engagement and then take a percentage, and I think that's fine. But to me, that's not where the most excitement is. My most excitement comes from the relatively like unknown speaker, helping them get clarity around those 5 M's, and then being able to be like, oh wow, guess what? I know you see, these other thought leaders in the space, but wait till you hear Avery, because Avery has boom, 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 and then they hear you, and then all of a sudden you have built this thought leadership in your space where you were relatively like an unknown player. Like, to me, that's where like the action is. So that's what I love.
And I'm going to tell you this story. I don't think I've ever told you this, so this will come as a surprise to you. So I'm sure you saw where I spoke at the Comeback Champion Summit, and it's actually because of you and Black Speakers Network that got me through the door. I didn't even have to do an interview, actually, because, okay, see what had happened was. So I was supposed to have an interview, but there was a mishap, and so I didn't get to do it the first time. And so Shay Brown, he actually called me and he said, I think I know you from somewhere, but I'm not quite sure. I was like, well, you probably saw me in the Black Speakers Network group. He's like, oh, so you're a colleague. I don't even have to go through the usual spiel. And so I was like, oh, well, okay. And so that's how I was able to just connect with him. So the connections are definitely real. I was just thrilled when you just saw enough in Black Women Moguls to invite us as a partner, and just so many. I can't say enough about Black Speakers Network, and then of course planning the retreat. I'm so excited.
But that's the thing. Well, I'm glad that worked out, and I think we probably need to do a better job. I actually just started using this tool to be able to send out like quick little video testimonies and get back. But I kind of there's this thing of don't get weary in well doing. So we just kind of putting the seeds out there. We know good things are happening, but it doesn't always come back like, hey, this is because of BSN. We have to be like really intentional about going out and like farming those stories back. But that's the purpose of it. I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're siloed. We just did this conversation on Clubhouse a couple of days ago where we were talking about the being a first generation entrepreneur and some of the nuances there. And to me, I'm first generation college student, first generation entrepreneur. Like, I didn't sit around at the dinner table having conversations about like digital marketing strategy and trying to figure out like how to build a brand or setting up taxes and stuff like that. Like, we're all figuring this stuff out. Most of us are figuring this stuff out as we go. And I think being a part of a community where you are in every other place in life, for the most part, I feel like we've been kind of like set up and we're working twice as hard just to catch up with some of our colleagues and in terms of like parity and equity and stuff like that. And so the way to get around that, I believe, is through community. And it's not just, being a part of a community, it's engaging like having conversations, introducing yourself, being intentional, and being able to create your own network of people within a network that are going to help. You can help each other get to where you want to go. Like, if I spoke on a podcast this year, that to me, like, the ultimate success is then being able to broker that opportunity to like 3 to 5 other people for the rest of the year. Not just, hey, I was on a podcast and now I'm done. Like, that's cool, but like, how else can we like cultivate that? And so that's the big thing.
Yeah. So of course we've been talking about Black Speakers Network all this segment. How exactly can someone join if they're interested? And then also, how can we keep up with you?
Oh, yeah. We keep it super simple. You can just go to blackspeakersnetwork.com. If you don't feel like typing the whole thing in, you can do what you did, Avery, and just Google us, Black Speakers Network. We are the only Black Speakers Network on the internet, to my knowledge. So just go to our page, click apply. There's an application process. It is very short. But you can apply for membership. If approved, you'll get an email saying, hey, welcome Black Speakers Network. You can you're invited for membership, and then take it from there. Our premium membership is $250 a year, or $25 a month. And so you could choose whichever option works best for you, and just get started. That'll give you access to speaking opportunity alerts we send out each week. We will add you to the directory, and then you'll have opportunities to engage in some of our signature event experiences. If you aren't sure if you are ready for that level of engagement, if you're just trying to figure out if you're a speaker or what you're doing or how you can get connected, then I invite you to both connect with me and our community on Facebook. We have a free speakers community. So again, if you just go to Facebook and type in Black Speakers Network, join the group, and we'd be happy to connect with you there.
And they will welcome you with open arms.
Absolutely.
Now, I hate to draw this to a close because this has been such a great conversation, but are there any parting words that you would like to share, or even what's next for Black Speakers Network?
Yeah, I mean, parting words I always like to leave with, it's don't let progress don't let perfection stand in the way of progress. I think that a lot of times as speakers, or really just entrepreneurs in general, we think that there's this things have to be perfect in order for us to move forward. You're writing a book, you're thinking about launching an event, you want to do a course, you want to put yourself out there as a speaker, and you're feeling like, maybe you have one too many filler words that you say or something like that, and you think you're not, ready. But I would encourage you to just take action. There are people right now they're not waiting for the person you're going to be in 10 years. They need the person that you are today. They need the information, the knowledge, the experiences that you have now. And they need to see you where you are now, not the perfect best version of yourself in some mythological, future time frame. Like, they need you now, and you are good enough now. And so that's what I would say is, don't let, perfection stand in the way of progress. If you have a message that you want to share with the world, if you have a product or service that you really believe in, start moving forward with that. Don't wait. And, you can build the plane while you're flying it to get to the destination that you want to. And then in terms of Black Speakers Network, we'll be continuing to be here. We have multiple signature experiences coming up throughout the course of the year that people will be able to take advantage of, free events where we'll be featuring Black Speaker Network members as well as sponsors and partners. We have Black Speakers University now, which we're super excited about. So another resource platform for people to be able to come and learn. And then a number of emerging programs like Black Speakers News. We're launching a 24-hour news website, as well as a few other really cool initiatives. Our own podcast. We have a new podcast directory. So lots of great ways to connect and be able to get your message out there.
Well, I'm excited. I'm so happy to be a part. Well, Thank you so much for sharing. Be sure to join Black Speakers Network for anyone emerging seasoned speakers who would just like to join and connect with this great organization. So thank you so much for joining us, Brian, and I will see you in our next meeting.
Absolutely. Take care. Thank you, Avery.